What is up? Derek, 13 Series Engineering here. Today we got another video in our dry dock single page app example. And we got a video I'm really excited about. Today we're going to be doing live Twig components. And this stuff is awesome. I'm telling you, live Twig components, once you start using them, you're not going to use stimulus anymore. This is literally the replacement for stimulus controllers. We are using PHP to do like live JavaScript stuff. It is amazing. So last time we went over just regular Twig components. One of the things that we didn't go over was stimulus controllers, and I was gonna actually use this. You do a stimulus controller. You can have a custom controller for like every every component basically, and I was going to do a stimulus controller to kind of show a demo of what we're going to do, but instead I'm just going to use the live component, and we're gonna just limit JavaScript to the max when we do this. Um, we're going to have to redo some of this stuff, but let me just tell you what the plan is, okay? We'll just write this down. The first thing is, so we got these filters, right? And this is all dynamic. So when you choose, these are buttons, and when you choose one, we need to add the active class to this button. It's a drop-down item in Bootstrap, so it needs to be drop-down item active is the classes on it. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Add active class to selected option. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to, in the drop-down name, the title, sort, part type, filter, that is going to change to the value. So drop-down name changes to filter value. And then I think probably that's where we're going to end the video. We'll just do like two short ones just to try and not make anyone's head spin. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use this really cool part of live components, which is event emitters. So we can emit events in the back end and then listen for them in other components. So that's a great way to pass data in between two components. So we're going to leverage that to make these filters actually filter the parts table. And then finally, using the same type of event emitter, we are going to use the reset button to go ahead and clear out the filter and reset. Well, here's the debate: should we reset the entire table or just reset that filter? I don't know. We're not there yet. We'll definitely reset the active filter here. And I guess we'll just kind of revert it. We'll have kind of like a compound query in Doctrine. So we'll just take that part off and refresh the table. So it will be one at a time. We might want to have like a reset all button in there, but we will get to that when the time comes. Reset parts, reset filters, and parts table. So that's basically the plan. The first two things we're going to cover is just adding an active class and the drop-down name changing. That's not super complicated to do, but it's a good intro to live components. Live components, I've actually never used these before on production. It's a relatively new thing, but they are super, super cool. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to install them. And while this composer package is installing, I did want to show you guys that I installed a plugin I didn't have. It was a Symfony 6 helper plugin, I think, but it still didn't fix everything. I had to suppress a warning to use this new type of Twig component notation instead of the classic notation like that we were using, which is fine to do. I just thought that this new syntax was cool. It's a new thing that's been added. I wanted to use it, but PHP Storm was giving me an issue, so I ended up figuring that out just by suppressing the error in PHP Storm. It does work just fine. It's just like a plugin needs to be changed for it or something. It's weird that we're having that issue, but it's good now. Cool. Okay, so yarn encore dev dash watch. We'll get our watcher running here. I think everything else is basically good. Um, so first thing we need to do is we need to add a function for this button click. And we have that right here. So in a button, we can add these parameters: data action, live is for live components, and then the action name is the actual function that's going to be called with arguments. And that there was one thing I did forget to mention about Twig components, and that's using this syntax with dynamic data. If you want to pass in the user, you do like, I don't know, you do like that basically. You do this colon syntax to pass in something dynamic and then now I don't think that's going to update it the way we're doing it with a live component, but that is how you pass in an object instead of just like a string or a number or something. Anyways, so each button, and we're going to have to make some modifications here because in our drop-down component, this button, obviously we shouldn't have an href. I changed that from a tag and did a bad job. This option, well, I guess we can just leave it as the option name. That's fine. And we'll add a class to this. So I hope you can see where I'm going. What we're going to do is we're going to have like a Twig syntax that's like if option, which is the name of the filter, equals no. We're going to have a global active option, and if that equals the option, if that's equal to the option, then we're going to add the active class, and if not, it's going to do nothing. So that's how we dynamically add the active class. Here we'll go, I haven't really been keeping up with my comments either. Public string active, oh, we're using PHP, I knew that. Active option, and we're just going to set that to just an empty string, so we can, you know, not have any compile time, runtime issues. Cool. And then in our drop-down service, we have all these active options. Basically, when something gets set, and I was thinking about making this an actual PHP object, the options, but I don't necessarily think we're going to need to do that because all we need to do is just pass the option that's getting clicked. So we need to add a function, public function, we'll just do like select option. Man, I am having a hard time typing. String option. Too easy. That's not going to return anything. And we're just going to go, for now, active, this, active option equals option. And that's all we're going to do. But this isn't a live component, so it's not going to work. Kind of got ahead of myself just coding it out. We need to go back and do one more thing. So we installed it, but we have as Twig component, blah, 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 as live component. That's what we need to do. Suppose you've already built one. Yes, we have, to make it into a live component. So you just replace it with as live, and of course there's the bootstrap, not bootstrap, GitHub little plus thing there. Just transfer that over, and we need to import this. Sweet. Cool. Okay, what else do we need to do? Make sure you have attributes, which we already do. I think I did this last night without telling anyone, but I've added this attributes thing. We had this classes variable. We were adding classes to it, but I did a little research on Twig components. I realized something I missed was you can add class, you can add ID, you know, to like, you can add these, you can add, you know, different stuff in here, and it will, you know, it'll pass these HTML attributes to the um, into that component. So you don't have to like code it out, which is pretty nice. Filter parts. Sure. Okay, cool. So that's already good and done. I think that's all we needed to do. We might have some issues here. I'm not really sure if I got everything I needed to. Oh yeah, we need to actually set this up right. Live action, and this needs to be set option, or did I do select option? I think set option's a good name for it. Select, that's fine. Select option. Now, yeah, okay. This is actually probably not gonna work. It might, but I think we need to do a like listening thing for that. We'll see. Okay, this is the variable option, which is just named option. And this is nice that I have this syntax like actually matching the, like a function notation like that. Cool, I think that should be about it. Unless we're forgetting something. Just want to double check this one more time. So render re-renders it. We got our action to do stuff. There's one other, yeah, data model. So that's model binding. Like if you're familiar with that with other MVC dealios like ASP.NET or Blazor, where basically it's just that two-way binding, like input and output. Do I want this data model for active option? No, I don't think I want that. And I think we want to add live prop because that's going to update. I think that's what we're missing. This needs to be live prop. Wow, I just spaced that out. I have no idea why. I don't even think is that even? Okay. And it's saying we need to add this writable true because by default it's read only, which actually we can just leave it as read only because we're not writing to it in the UI. We're just using a function to write to it, which I think is alright. Well, here's a good example. Live prop posts and writable object properties. There's a compute thing we might want to use. Well, let's just see what happens here. Okay. Requires the default action method invoke. Default action trait. Okay. So we have to add a trait to this, apparently. I really don't know where that comes from. Actions and services, actions. A single default action. Okay, tells you to do it right there. Oh, live action. I think that's my issue. And now I should not need to use that. We'll see. Okay, so there's a few more steps that I guess, we didn't do. Cool. Now let's see what happens. Still not happy. Okay, I guess I do need that. Do they have it in the docs? No? Weird. And it didn't load. Let's see what we got. unexpected value operator, same as value. Oh yeah, Twig does not go for this, the triple equals. Not a huge fan of that. Okay, cool. Now I've never done this. I'm a little worried what's gonna happen. Okay. Could not resolve argument option. Maybe you forgot to register the controller's service, missed a tag, service arguments. I wonder if that is why. Let's reload this and see what we got in the DOM for all these option my parts. I bet that's not going to work. I bet that needs like a string around it. Oh, I also need this. This is literally what I'm doing. Now, item name, I think that's because they're choosing to just name it differently. String name. Yeah, so you can change the name of it, but you can keep ID the same. Alright. We're learning, we're getting there. Okay, we need a live argument. A lot of things to this. This is interesting. It's not as out of the box as I thought it would be, but it's nothing crazy. I just am wondering if there should be like some type of string notation or something around that. Really? Okay. Dropdown name must not be initialized. Must not be accessed before initialization. It's re-rendering it. Oh. Well, because it's re-rendering the component? I'm not sure why it's so angry about this. Because we passed this in as an argument. It's accessing this before it's initialized, which we could just initialize it to this, but that's going to be no good because then we're not going to get the right stuff in there. Because it got a drop down, you know, it re-rendered drop down service as whatever. Man, that is interesting. It re-rendered it as blank. So basically what's happening here is this get icon function is getting called before. If I just take this out, this will work, but it's not what we want. We don't want this to do better. Drop down name does not exist. Okay, yeah, it just has an issue re-rendering the component. I'm gonna have to look into that. Okay, I got it figured out. Basically, live props. You need things that need to. What's going to happen is this whole component is going to get re-rendered when you update it. The whole thing gets re-rendered, and it will do all new reinitialized variables. Unless you give it live prop, then it won't touch those parts. So I had to add live prop to dropdown name. That's what it was saying. Dropdown name is being accessed before it's initialized. So that was our issue. Stuff that you want to save and transfer from state to state, you need to give live prop to. So that was, I guess, just a little bit of a learning curve on that, but we're good now. And as you can see, we have the active class. And I don't know about this. It's just grayed out. I kind of want to change this. And let's see, active's fine. What if we add disabled too? I really can't spell. Disabled, jeez. Wow. I had to Google that. That's tough. Okay. So, I guess that just tells you. You can still click it. Yeah, we can add that to right here. We can add disabled. Should we add something else like a background color so it stays white? It might look weird, but you can tell that it's clicked at least. You know what we could do? And this is the cool part about all of this is we can add like a check mark to this thing. Because it's a twig. This is going to be cool. Watch this. God, I love twigs. If we have this condition, end if, and we're going to give it check, I guess. Let's see if we can find a cool icon to use. Now we are getting into some territory that I want to talk about, which is single page apps and the whole check to. I like that one. Or maybe there's like a bullseye or something. There's a lot of stuff you could do. You could do you know, you can do, we'll just do check to, sure. You could do toggle buttons with this. You could do, there's just so many things you could do. But we're getting into this, which, look, see, I just refreshed and now our stuff's gone. And so that's the thing. That's cool, huh? We added that check to it. So we like, you know, it's selected. Nice. Reset doesn't do anything yet. Now, what I really want to talk about is that, you know, users are so used to like reloading or using back and forth to navigate. And if you're like Blazor's notorious for this, if you're in a Blazor app and you like refresh the page, it'll like log you out. Like you're done. You need to log back in. You need to go through all the things, the routing and the views that Blazor uses and all this stuff. It's like you're not getting like route parameters, or you know, there are query parameters you can use to pass things in between views, but it's just a really interesting thing. And that's the thing about single page apps. It's like, don't like, well, there's some things we can do to kind of save where we're at in, and we can use local storage to do that and leverage that. And in Blazor, a lot of times you do that. Just like the Remember Me token, that's a local storage thing and a session thing, and we can use all those things with browser memory, so we can kind of maintain our browser state and return to it if we refresh or navigate away. So that's always helpful. But for some things, you know, you do want to reset them. Now, if I go to Shipyard, yeah, it doesn't like that because I got oh, we haven't even, this isn't even a component. I knew that. Obviously, I reset everything when you navigate away. And that's kind of it's a UX debate. Do you always, sometimes you want to do that maybe because you have to go and clear all the filters, but sometimes you don't want to do that. Just depends. Cool. So we have check marks. What we don't have is the okay, this, I think options, we're gonna mess up options here. Watch this. Here's the other part of it. We're gonna display the name for the active filter and the drop-down name is gonna change, okay? So this is gonna break stuff. It should anyways. This drop-down name equals option. And this is going to mess stuff up because even though dropdown name is a live prop, this get icons is gonna it's gonna screw things up basically. So if we go in, we got my parts, but it reset it. It reset the options, not the get icons. That, yeah, it does that too. So basically, what we need to do is make options and icons live props in order to transfer them in between states. And that's fine. Not a big deal. We could, we're getting into the territory of this that it's like we might want to actually make this an object that gets initialized. This is fine for now, but that is something to consider. So icon, and we need a default for that, which is going to be filter. And then we need to do an array, which is options. And that's going to be we'll just leave it blank. And trying to think about where to initialize this and where to initialize all these things. This is going to give us issues, but I want to try it first. If we do it in the constructor, icon equals get icon, and yeah. We're going to have to mess with some scoping of this and when it happens. Oh, I messed that up. We could just have this be an empty array. Okay, I'm not sure what was up with that. Yeah, problems. Yep, we're accessing it before it's initialized when we're doing it in the constructor. And I have to do that in both places. The constructor, I wonder if there's a lifecycle hooks thing I can look into, because this is JavaScript component hooks. Okay. That's the only place lifecycle is. Add a hook update on a live prop update. Interesting. Okay, that's not exactly what we're looking for. Essentially, this is initialized way before things are kind of done out of order here. And that's our problem. But what I might be able to do let's change this. Oh, just so people know who aren't familiar with PHP, this in PHP is different than this. This is an empty else and then an if, and this is an else if. Little nuance things there for you. Not everyone knows that. It's different in JavaScript, I believe. Let's see if we can do this like this. I'm skeptical, but we don't need to return anything, and this doesn't need to return anything. But when they get called, you know, everything should be rendered already, and everything should be initialized. So I'm thinking this is going to work. Options equals that. Okay. Cool. Well, let's see what happens. Ooh, null given at expected string, null given at property path icon. Of course, I got this thing wide open. Oh, it's asking because we made him a live prop here, we gotta pass it in. So it's like the whole get icon thing. Honestly, we don't even need that. Well, we definitely don't need it as a live prop. There is probably a little bit too much going on. Okay, so that's working, but options is definitely not working. And it's going to get mad because we didn't pass this stuff in. Yep. Expected an array, but null given. We get into some interesting conditions doing this, I'll tell you what. I'm going to get rid of this so it's less complicated. And it doesn't update because that's super annoying. We'll give it a default of filter. That makes sense. And then in here, we're going to have, we'll just have icon filter or funnel layers sort up. Okay. Funnel icon. This one was sort up. And this one layers. So now we're passing that in as a prop, and that's fine. That should work. We should still be able to access it. And in the dropdown, we don't need to do, we can just do icon. Don't need to do this anymore. Options though. Well, we're not passing them in. We're getting them dynamically, and we want to keep things like that. Although it doesn't necessarily matter. I might need to add live prop to the other one too. Null given for options. Still not happy with that. We'll just do this for now. We need to come back to it. Because it's not initialized. But I have live prop. It's not supposed to update. They're in there. Property path options. I think because it's not getting passed in. I wonder if I can make this function a live prop. I don't think you can. Contain attribute target method. Our issue is that this is getting like recalled. So if I take this out, we still have options. We need to return this. But we are going to, because we're changing dropdown name. That's our problem. But here's what we can do to get around this. All parts, and see it changes the filters to being the default thing. Now, if I remove this, that shouldn't happen. And it doesn't, so we're good. Let's add a function. Function display name. And we could add private string name. And this can just do return. Well, we're going to call that in here. Drop down name. So that just returns the name. But why are you so unhappy? That's why. There we go. Okay, so we have display name. Now, when that re-renders, it's going to call that again, just like it calls get options again. But now we have a name here. We're going to initialize this to null. Empty. Ha! That's what I meant. And if this name does not equal empty, then we'll return the default name. But if it does, then, or if it's not empty, if it's populated, then we return name. Hopefully that'll get rid of our race condition. Okay. Oh, probably because that's not initialized. If still not happy. Because I mixed them up. The defaults return the drop-down name. Cool. There we go. There we go. We got it. Okay. Cool. So now we're using this live prop to do all this cool stuff. That was a little, I mean, that was my first time. That was a little bit like pulling teeth. We're just going to take a couple minutes here and do a reset. But this is cool how we're doing this. I mean, like, okay, so doing this in JavaScript, yeah, this was like kind of a learning curve. Um, we would have probably done this like quicker. Um, but you know what? The reset's got to be inside the component. I was thinking of like some global reset. Oh, we can use an event emitter for that. So you can reset all of them, like a reset all button. Yes, I could have done this way quicker in Stimulus. It's just adding and removing classes, changing display text of something. So that's super easy. But when it comes to actually changing this table, that is just not, uh, that would be harder in JavaScript. We would have to do some turbo stuff, and we could totally do it. But in pure JavaScript and turbo, with a turbo library. But using this, we're going to use an event emitter, and we're just going to use PHP. And if I knew, if I knew what I was doing more with this, this is way less code than JavaScript. I've got these two, arrays. Um, Figuring this out definitely took me a minute. It's probably at like an hour for a video, but if I did this in Stimulus, it would be like, I don't know, 10 to 20 minutes. But if I knew what I was doing, and the next time I go to do this, I'll like knock it out in um, a pretty quick amount of time. Like there's not much code to it, and it just like anything else, there's a learning curve to it. And there's so many cool things we can do. Something I don't think I mentioned is that you can add these blocks to Twig components, so we can put stuff in here, like anything you want, basically. You could even put dynamic things in there, like a turbo frame, and replace it. So you see we got our, but the point is you could put a hidden input element and do stuff with that and change it dynamically, or like a modal, or just a ton of different stuff. There's a ton of options, um, tons of things to do. So yeah, I think we're gonna save resetting all the filters and everything till next time. That looks a little funky for whatever reason. The letter spacing. My letter spacing has been like it reverted, or I don't know what's up with that. I wonder if I can just change this to be like drop down and it'll fix it. Because I updated drop down item to have a... Oh, okay. Nope, not that. Never mind. We will leave as is, and I guess I need to look at my button letter spacing at some point. Man, that's really bugging me. Oh, we're gonna have to wait forever for SAS to compile. Um, Basically, this is just like a good intro to live components, about doing some different actions, some different things at once, and then that's better. Um, I feel like the font size is different too. Is it? 16, 20. Should make them all 20. What would get me that? FS5. I bet. Yep. How about we add a spinny thing too? Not a spinner, but I just, you know what? I love playing with CSS all the time. I don't want to add a trash can because we're not deleting anything. I love styles, I love markup, I love playing with this stuff. It's just fun. It's just cool to make things look how they're supposed to look, Wow, I can't type. ME2, and we'll do like BI. I bet there's a refresh. There is not. Rewind. Let's see what that looks like. Nope. Okay, arrow clockwise. That's not really That's kind of forward, that's not back. Resets. Undo. Oh, arrow counterclockwise. Cool. Perfect. All right, I think we spent enough time on this. You guys get the point. Next time we are going to emit events to do our table filtering and to actually do the filtering and to um, go ahead and do our reset stuff as well. That's going to be a little bit more involved on the back end, so it should be pretty exciting, but I'll catch you guys later.